and welcome to another episode of Anfield Watch. Today, we're going to be talking about something we probably never expected to talk about and we never really want to talk about, but that is the managerial question at Liverpool. Arne Slot, let's give him credit for what he has achieved at Liverpool in his first season, winning the Premier League, changing certain players' positions like Ryan Gravenberch, tweaking Jurgen Klopp's tactics and getting the maximum out of everyone. However, now the situation is different. Unfortunately, Slot doesn't seem to grasp how to go forward with this new Liverpool 2.2, with the new players that Liverpool have brought in, and with the sort of way teams have set out against Liverpool in those low blocks. You could almost say they found out Arne Slot's Achilles heel, and he just can't seem to get over that. And the results are there to show for it, with 5 wins in his last 18 Premier League games. That is not good enough for any Liverpool team, let alone a Liverpool team trying to defend their league titles. So unfortunately, we do have to talk about it. My personal opinion is that, as much as I want Slot to succeed, and you always want a Liverpool manager to succeed, I just can't see him lasting much longer in his role, whether that is until the end of the season or even before that. But I definitely think heading into next season, Liverpool will have a new manager unless things change drastically. And at this stage, at this moment, I can't see that happening. So let's get into the question. If not Slot, who? And obviously, the name on everyone's lips, who everyone is talking about, is Xabi Alonso, because he was linked with the job before. He was Liverpool's primary target. Liverpool wanted to get him, but at the time, he was on an unbeaten run with Bayer Leverkusen in the league. He was on course to win the league title. He could have won the Europa League as well. And fair enough to him, he didn't want to leave. He didn't feel like he was ready for that challenge to replace Jurgen Klopp. He was very early in his managerial career as well. So he stayed, ended up going to Real Madrid. Things did not work out for him there. And, you got to ask yourself, why didn't things work out? Was it because he didn't have the system? He didn't have the tactics? Is it because he's not a good manager? Or was it something else? And for me, having looked into Real Madrid, the reasons why Real Madrid didn't succeed, I think it goes down to the egos at the club, the way sort of Alonso was unable to get them to adhere to this high intensity pressing style where everyone is working for them for the good of the team, not just for themselves. And when you've got Kylian Mbappe, when you've got Jude Bellingham, when you've got Vinicius Jr., these high egos who probably don't want to be running as much off the ball, you're always going to struggle. So I think he was always set up to fail. Now at Liverpool, obviously we've still got egos, players who want to do well, but I do think there is an understanding and within all the Liverpool players, the way Liverpool do their scouting is that these are players who want to work for the team first and foremost. They're not just individuals who want to looking for self-accolades and things like that. I think there is a real unity in that team. So maybe Alonso's system could work better in a team like that, where everyone is willing to learn and willing to sort of adapt how he wants to play. Obviously, it helps that the fact that he has Jeremy Frimpong, Florian Wirtz, who will know him very well from his Leverkusen days, and they are now sort of key characters in the Liverpool dressing room as well. So if you get them on board already with Alonso's appointment, it makes sense. But I kind of wanted to talk about his system. What do we expect Alonso to do? I think a lot of people, because they saw how he played at Bayer Leverkusen, which was 3 at the back, wing backs pushing forward, and 2 sort of double pivots in between an attacking midfielder, and then 2 attacking midfielders ahead of that, and 1 striker. There's just 2 attacking midfielders and 1 striker ahead of them. So it was a sort of a system that you probably wouldn't expect Liverpool to play. However, I think with Alonso, you have to sort of mention the fact that he's not married to his system. He could play a different formation. He has played different formations in the past. In his early managerial career and even at Real Madrid, he attempted to do things differently when things weren't going the way that he wanted them to. But let's just entertain for the idea if you have three at the back. I think Liverpool's system, Liverpool's style, the recruitment, it all kind of is suited to Alonso's formation if you want to play three at the back. I mean, obviously the big question mark is the centre-back situation. Liverpool definitely would have to recruit in that department. But if you're looking at the two full-backs, they are kind of full-backs who Alonso would work well with. Then if you're looking at the double pivot positions, you could see Curtis Jones, someone like that who could work very well there. I think Ryan Gravenberch would suit that role as well. Potentially even Dominic Szoboszlai. And then having those two attacking midfielders, Florian Wirtz usually came off the left in Alonso's system. Again, he could be very well suited to that role. And then up front, maybe Hugo Ekitike could actually play as one of those attacking midfielders coming off the right. And Alexander Isak plays up top when he's fit. And obviously, as I mentioned, you've got Jeremy Frimpong as a right wing back. You could unleash him and give him the sort of license to roam and be his best self. So it's a system, it's a formation that would work very well, I think. And let's say Liverpool bring in Nico Schlotter back, someone who's very good with his progressive passes. I talked about on here about how he's almost like a quarterback as a centre-back. If you bring him in as well, that would work really well, I think, in Alonso's system. Just having that progressive ability from deep. I think it's a formation and it's a style that could be suited to Liverpool with some adjustments in recruitment in the summer. So I think, personally, Alonso is a good manager. He's very early on in his managerial career. So, he's still figuring out what works and what doesn't. I'm sure Real Madrid was a sort of learning curve for him in understanding maybe some sides of man management and things like that, how he needs to deal with those egos and certain situations. But in terms of tactics, in terms of his system, I think he's already quite a developed coach, and he had a good education working with some of the best minds in the game. And I think for me, what I'm encouraged by is the way he approached facing low blocks at Bayer Leverkusen. He did something really clever, and he overloaded one side of the pitch, sort of in the typical sort of six-man box that Pep Guardiola used to do at Barcelona and sometimes was at Manchester City. So you'd have 6 players forming a sort of box formation, a rectangle, so to say, and they'd pass between themselves, draw in the opposition, and then one of those players would make a quick switch to Jeremy Frimpong or one of Bayer Leverkusen's wing-backs or their attacking midfielders who'd be free on the other side, and that quick overload, from that overload to that quick switch, you'd open up the defences that way. So I think that's a system that could potentially work at Liverpool. I would say it's a more basic way of breaking down low blocks, and if you have the right coaching and the people will start to notice those patterns, and maybe they will back off the opposition, and then you have to find other solutions. And that is when I say Alonso maybe hasn't found those solutions yet. So he will. I think he's more developed in his ability to break down low blocks than Arne Slot, but I think he might still struggle in that department. And we've seen Jurgen Klopp struggle in that department as well. I think a lot of the times it does depend on the individual players as well. You want to have certain profiles who are capable of breaking down low blocks, and that could include someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold with his brilliant vision, his creativity. But I think if you look at Bayern Munich or Manchester City, having someone like a 1-versus-1 specialist. At Manchester City, you have Jeremy Doku, who can take players on and maybe take 2-3 defenders out of the game. That is a huge advantage as well to breaking down low blocks. And Bayern Munich, you have Michael Olise, who can do that, but he can also deliver some amazing balls, and he's a very creative player. So Liverpool, I think, need to find their own Jeremy Doku or Michael Olise in their recruitment. I don't know who that is personally. I do really like Yan Diomande. I think he could be a great player, but we're talking about a big transfer fee for a player who sort of doesn't have that much experience under his belt. So it remains to be seen. I do think he'd fit that role. But we've got to talk about some other managers as well. For me, Alonso would be a solid choice. I don't think, I might be wrong in this, but I don't think he will be as good as Jurgen Klopp. Definitely not to begin with, because he's still so early in his managerial career. He doesn't have the charisma of a Jurgen Klopp, but what he does have is he's got the sort of support of the Liverpool fans already. He's an icon at the club, and I think because of that special relationship, that special connection, maybe he would get more time and have more patience, and ultimately inspire the fans and the players as well. Now I wanted to sort of look into another Spaniard in Cesc Fabregas, who seems to be linked time and time again. Again, we're looking at a manager who's very early on his coaching career as well, but he's been very impressive at Como, getting them out of the relegation zone to being in a place where they're competing for a European spot in Serie A at the moment. He plays really nice, positional, attacking football, and it's really entertaining. And I think he's done a great job bringing through young players as well, the likes of Nico Paz and other players as well. He's very good at sort of integrating them into the team. And there are times when I say I will admit he does say some questionable things. I think when it came to the African Cup of Nations, for example, Assane Diop, who would just come back from an injury and he was called up for Senegal squad. He was sort of touch and go with his injury and whether he's going to be fit for the tournament. And then just before the tournament began and he was due to fly off to Senegal, Fabregas decided to throw him into a game and he got injured and ended up missing the tournament, which is a great shame for him because obviously Senegal won the African Cup of Nations and he missed out on that. And Alonso after the game was asked, like, why did you risk playing him? And he said something along the lines of, well, we're not going to have him for a month, so I might as well play him because we pay his wages. And that kind of didn't sit right with me. I get the sentiment, but I think, you have to take into account player welfare and things like that. And maybe because of that, I'm veering towards him not being a Liverpool manager or not being suited to it. Like I said, the lack of experience as well probably plays a role in that. So I'd swerve if I was Liverpool. That he wouldn't be my first choice. I do think he's a very good up-and-coming manager, but I think he needs more time, more experiences before he can take on such a big job. Now, I wanted to talk about another one who kind of always gets mentioned, or has been getting mentioned recently, and that's Julian Nagelsmann. He is, for me, a very, very impressive manager. He's, again, a bit similar to Alonso in the sense that things didn't entirely work out for him at Bayern Munich, but I don't think he was also given a lot of time at Bayern Munich. I think he was let go a bit too soon, and he was let go on the basis that he didn't win them the Champions League, but he did win them the league title, and he was on course to win the league title again. It's just his Champions League performances that sort of got him the sack, which is really unfair considering if you look at the other managers who have since come in, none have been able to do as well in Europe as Julian Nagelsmann. So again, a lot of people will have that his dismissal at Bayern Munich against him, will hold that against him. But I think you need context, and it does come with a caveat. I think with time, he probably would have been able to achieve a lot more. In terms of his system, it's a really intriguing system. It's got a bit mix of relationalism, which is an interesting idea in terms of players following the ball rather than their positions. And what Nagelsmann has done in Germany is he's actually decided to tweak his system and his formation to suit the player profiles and the player roles that he has available to him, rather than having a rigid setup. So he normally looks at who he has on the pitch or who he has available in his squad, and he adjusts his system to suit those individual players, which I think is a really, really clever idea. Now, obviously, there are some fundamentals in the way he builds up from the back. He does like to have 3 players normally in the back line building up from the back, but that can be a holding midfielder dropping deep and coming in alongside 2 centre-backs. So it doesn't have to be with a back 3. It can be a back 4, sort of moving into a back 3 at times. He also likes to have a lot of midfielders roaming about in the middle. Again, Liverpool do have midfielder profiles, so can do that. Curtis Jones, Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, they can all run about on the pitch. So I think for me, he's probably a bit more impressive in his tactics than Alonso. I think he's got a lot more up his sleeve. He's a very impressive manager. His key foundations are the fact that he wants to sort of inspire his players, and he understands, he's working with world-class footballers. So he has always sort of focused on getting the off-the-pitch stuff right with their players, getting them in the mindset that he wants them to be in. And he does a lot of... So what I'm trying to say is his man management skills seem to be up there. They're quite impressive. And that's something with Alonso that I think maybe isn't at Nagelsmann's level. What is massively sells me on Nagelsmann as well is I remember reading a magazine interview that he did with Jurgen Klopp, and Klopp spoke about how impressed he was with him. This was when Nagelsmann was a manager at Hoffenheim, so he was really up and coming back then. And Klopp was in awe of his tactics, the pressing that he was able to achieve at Hoffenheim and everything else. And reading that at the time when Klopp was still Liverpool manager, I was like, wow, this Nagelsmann guy sounds like the perfect successor to Klopp's throne. And I do still believe that. Obviously, with Nagelsmann, if you want him to come in, then you are going to have to wait until the World Cup and until Germany finishes the tournament before you can appoint him. So that makes things a little bit difficult, because that means you do miss out on him being there for the whole of pre-season. But at the same time, you could argue, well, a lot of Liverpool's players are going to be at the tournament as well. So it's not like any new manager is going to get a lot of time with those players either, because they're going to be competing at the tournament. I think that is one to consider. Obviously, it's a bit more trickier in terms of the logistics when you can get Nagelsmann over to Liverpool, how quickly he could focus on Liverpool because of the tournament. So I do think that is one that is, because of that fact, is a bit trickier, but I think I can overlook it because of how impressive of a manager he is. And he's still young, he's still learning, but the pedigree that he already has, I'm kind of sold on him, maybe even over Alonso, to be honest. But then the manager I'm sold on even more, and I'm not even sure if these rumors are true, if he is available, but that is Luis Enrique at Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, his pedigree speaks for itself, really. Won the Champions League at PSG, was very successful at Barcelona as well. He's just a very, very impressive manager, and I think if he is available, if he really is considering a new project, I would love that to be at Liverpool. I think the way he has PSG set up is just incredible to watch at the moment. It's so entertaining. There's a reason why Slot keeps mentioning it in his press conferences, because it is really impressive. So, on paper, it's a 4-3-3 system almost, but it looks so much different when you watch it play. The way Hakimi and Nuno Mendes bomb forward, I really like what Enrique set up, in the sense that he's got his wide players, the likes of Kvaratskhelia or Barcola or someone else. He's got them to really hold width and sort of isolate defenders 1v1 on the bylines. And then he's got his fullbacks bombing forward, attacking those sort of half spaces between the fullbacks and between the opposition's fullbacks and the centre backs, really using their pace. Mendes and Hakimi are both really fast players to run in between the opposition lines and behind defences. And in the middle, you've got the likes of Desiree Doué, João Neves, and all these players who are really impressive and who can really pick a pass. I mean, Vitinha, he's an incredible build-up player, and he's just an incredible footballer in general. Obviously, I think Enrique's system is benefited by the fact that he's got pretty much the most perfect profiles in all of the positions that he needs them to be in. But the most impressive thing for me is the way, PSG do have a lot of egos, do have, or did at least have a lot of egos, maybe less so now that I'm thinking about it. But still, I think it's really impressive the way he's managed, like Ousmane Dembele, and he's got him to be involved in the pressing. I think Dembele has become one of the best pressers in Europe over the last sort of year or so that he's been working with Enrique, and just that intensity that PSG play with, that it's incredible to watch the pressing, that system that he has set up. I mean, they smothered Inter Milan in the final, and they were smothering other opposition teams, including Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid in the Club World Cup, if you watch those games. So I'm really impressed by that pressing system. It is the intensity, and that I think that's what Liverpool are missing, and that's why I'm so sold on Enrique. And the other massive thing in his favour is he loves to work with young players. He loves to develop players. He developed Dembele. He brought his confidence up and made him into the world's best player, although I'd argue Mo Salah was probably more deserving of the Ballon d'Or. But whatever. Dembele was rightfully competing among the world's best players for that title, and you can't really argue with him getting the award in the end. And that's all down to Enrique and the way he's worked with him. And there's other examples as well. He's just constantly bringing through PSG's very talented young players. You look at Mayulu, you look at Mbaye, even Doué, he's developed so much under him. Zaire Emery, all of these young players, they're just getting better and better, and he loves to work with young players, and that just fits so much into Liverpool's philosophy and what they want. There's a lot of young players at the club, there's a lot of talented young players in the academy, and Liverpool are constantly buying talented young players, and Liverpool's philosophy is you want to build them in, you want to bed them in, and you want to make them better and develop them. That's something I think Arne Slot has fallen short of. He doesn't seem as open to working with younger players. So I'd be personally, Enrique is my number one choice. If he is available, I'd really want him to manage Liverpool, because I'd be really excited for what he'd be able to do with the current squad. And just the young players like the likes of Rio Ngamoa, Trainioni, they could develop tremendously under him. So that is it for today. Unfortunately, it's not a video that I think I ever wanted to make. I don't like to sort of want the current Liverpool manager to leave, but I just can't see any improvement under Arne Slot, and I do think Liverpool are assessing their options at the moment. And as I just said a few seconds ago, if those options include Luis Enrique, he should be on the top of the list. Now, if he's not, I personally have Nagelsmann and then potentially Xabi Alonso. But I think either of those three options would be a solid appointment for Liverpool, and they would ensure that Liverpool would go on to play better football than they are at the moment, which is what we all want. And we all want Liverpool to be back where they belong. So thank you everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for tuning in if you're watching on YouTube. And as always, if you do enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you want as Liverpool's next manager? Do you think Slot should be sacked? Do you think he should be given more time? And if not, then please let me know what you thought about the potential candidates who could replace him.